Thank you for joining us today for part 3 of Heritage Mississauga's 2022 Placemaking Webinar Series. I'm Matthew Wilkinson, historian with Heritage Mississauga. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather today is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We recognize the importance of this land and pay our respects to the Anishinaabe and other First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, past, present, and future. This is the third webinar of our 4-part placemaking series, and today we welcome Matthew Marsili from the Argo Development Group with his presentation entitled Lakeview Village, Wouldn't It Be Nice to Live Together? Matthew is a development manager with Argo Development Corporation, one of the 5 development partners working on the Lakeview Village Project. His experience across Ontario on a variety of development projects helped shape the work being completed on the Lakeview Village Project, with sustainability, connectivity, and healthy community development as key goals. Matthew attended planning school at Queen's University and has worked on the Lakeview Village Project since 2018. So thank you and welcome, Matthew, to our Heritage Mississauga's 2022 Placemaking Webinar Series.
Perfect. Thanks for the great introduction, Matthew. That's confusing to say that, but great to have the opportunity to speak with all of you today about our amazing project down here at Lakeview in Mississauga. So I'll just take a second here to share my screen. So today, as part of my presentation, I'll be focusing on our Lakeview Village project. And as Matthew had mentioned, my name's Matthew Marsili. I'm a development manager with a group called Argo Development Corporation. We're one of 5 partners that make up the partnership that's working on this amazing project on the shores of Lake Ontario, which will reconnect Mississauga to a site that really has been disconnected over the past 60+ years in the city of Mississauga on the shores of Lake Ontario. I'll talk a little bit to start about the project and the partnership and how we came to be. In 2008, the province had decided to eliminate the use of coal-fired power across Ontario to seek more green, sustainable avenues to produce power. And after 2008, there was a long process, which I'll get into a bit later on, which ultimately transformed the lands from an industrial use over to community use and ultimately a mixed-use residential designation with lots of work done by the former Councillor Jim Toby and other community members as well. In 2018, after all that work was completed, set the framework for the plan. Myself, as part of Argo Development Corporation, along with our fantastic partnership through TAC Construction, Green Park Group, CCI Developments, and Brandhaven Homes, were able to purchase the property from OPG and continue that vision that was initially set out by the community and really try to deliver this amazing project on the shores of Lake Ontario. Before I kind of move into some more details on that and more details on the history, I'd be remiss to not give a quick shout out to not just our partners who enable us to do the amazing work we do on this project every single day, but also to our amazing wide consultant team. This is a unique project on the shores of Lake Ontario. Certainly one of a kind type of project in Mississauga and even in Ontario and in Canada. And without everything from landscape architects to planners to engineers to district energy specialists, to other architects coming from worldwide search, we wouldn't be able to be at the place we are today. So we thought we'd give a chance to acknowledge them and their work on this project as well. A bit of context for any of you that might not know where the site is, where obviously the big Lakeview logo is and where the highlighting is the location of the site, the former site of the Four Sisters Power Plant in Mississauga. And I'll have a few images and talk about that in a little bit. But of course, decommissioned, as I had mentioned, and created into a brand new opportunity to create an amazing waterfront community on the shores of Mississauga. As you can see, we're just about 1.6 kilometers away from the Toronto-Etobicoke border at Long Branch Station, and then about the same amount of distance, just a little bit more, over to Port Credit Go, and you can see also Square One City Centre as part of this context. The site, I think many people would be very aware of the past of the site in terms of a coal-fired power plant, and we'll talk about that and how that kind of came to end. But just really quickly, what a lot of people don't understand about the site is this is actually the site of Canada's first airport. It was actually an aerodrome at the time because there were no commercial sites at the time. So the photo on the right is a photo of that, and of course a large historic use with that. And in the Second World War, in and during the Second World War, the site was, as well as a small arms building adjacent just down the road at Dixie and Lakeshore, transformed into a military and ammunition manufacturing facility. So quite a bit of history on this site, and something that we're trying to acknowledge through our work that we're completing through our parks process and all our interpretation plans that we're currently undergoing with our consulting team and the city of Mississauga. And then finally, we have the Lakeview Generating Station, affectionately named the Four Sisters for the four smokestacks, kind of protruding out into the sky over 60 meters back when this power generation station was operational. I mentioned it before, it was a polluting use on the site from the 1960s all the way until 2006, and finally demolished in 2008. And really just a different type of use, a different type of era on this waterfront. This waterfront was an industrial place, a place for utility uses, and completely different for the vision that has been worked on since 2008 for this site. But of course, an important acknowledgement to what really was a landmark on Lake Ontario for a long time in this site. So I mentioned that we had purchased the property in 2018 from OPG. In 2018, we purchased the property. That did not mean that all the work was completed out on site. We were handed the site with the Four Sisters demolished in the previous photo. However, we were left a 4-acre slab on the site. As you can imagine, in the 1960s, there certainly was no shyness in the use of concrete and rebar, as you can tell from the image here. So from our purchase in 2018, we immediately set out to demolish all of the underground infrastructure that was left over from this old coal polluting use. And we spent over 2 years doing that and just completed that work back in the early part of 2021 with over 600,000 tons of concrete demolished, a lot of it brought next door to the Jim Tovey Lakeview Conservation Area, which I'll talk about in a bit, and almost 100,000 tons of rebar brought out of the site. So as you can imagine, we had massive crews of workers working day in, day out, Monday to Saturday when the weather allowed for it, from the years of 2018 to 2021 to bring our site to this type of status right here, which is kind of a site ready for us to be able to use and be able to look at future development and use it as our base or as our blank canvas to create this wonderful waterfront community. I mentioned that we pulled out almost 600,000 tons of concrete as part of the work that demolition work that we had completed on this site, removing the subsurface infrastructure, removing effectively subway tunnels running underneath the ground that would bring water inside and out of the coal-fired power plant. We were able to successfully bring 400,000 tons of that concrete, almost just a touch under 400,000 tons of that concrete, over to just to the right of this photo. There's the brand new Jim Tovey Lakeview Conservation Area, which is a new coastal conservation area which didn't exist 10 years ago, being created by filling the lake in. And what an amazing story of a sustainable reuse to take the foundations of what was an old coal burning power plant and create it into a brand new coastal wetlands for fish and wildlife and other habitats to thrive. So in 2020, we won a Canadian Brownfields Award for our work with the Credit Valley Conservation Authority next door and bringing over a lot of the concrete over the site and expediting their process by almost a year. So that was a really exciting and environmental piece as part of the early stages of this project. Additionally, that's not our only work we've completed with CVC and the Credit Valley Conservation Authority next door. We also had the amazing opportunity to daylight a creek that was piped under a former an industrial facility, being the GE Booth wastewater treatment plant next door, and bring it back to life bring it back above ground. This creek in the 1960s was piped underneath the wastewater treatment plant, thinking it was a more efficient way to be able to deal with water management. But as times grew and as things changed, sustainability became more top of mind. And then through our partnership with the Credit Valley Conservation Authority, we were able to daylight this creek that hadn't existed for such a long time and bring it back to light. And up to this year, and this is actually an old photo still, but up to this year, we've been able to watch this creek grow. And even since December 24th of last year, I know because it was the day right before Christmas, sorry, December 23rd rather of last year, there's actually water running in this creek. And since then, we even see lots of wildlife, including fish, already making their way back this naturalized area, all flowing into the future Jim Tovey Lakeview Conservation Area. So it's another amazing story of how we're trying to bring sustainability back to this area, back to this community for what previously was a very much heavy industrial use with the OPG coal-fired power plant. So I think I've talked a little bit about how we got to where we are today and the work that we've completed today. And I think it's a good time for me to talk about the plan to transform this former site into this amazing master plan on the shores of Lake Ontario. And it hasn't been an easy feat to get us here. I'd mentioned previously that this site was actually decommissioned in 2008, and we're obviously now in 2022. So it's been a few years to get us to this point in time. However, very important years and a lot of work completed in that amount of time. The development master plan was something that the basis was set out by the city and the early work by former councillor Jim Tovey, which is the conservation's being named, area is being named after. All that work completed by the community was substantial, because when this was shut down, this coal-fired power plant, the initial thought was to convert this into another industrial use, another utility use, being a gas-fired plant to continue to produce power. And Jim Tovey and the community stepped in and said, no, we want to be part of this community. We want to step in. We want to make this a place for people to reconnect with the water. And over the next almost decade, they worked on a different development master plan, not different, but the first development master plan called Inspiration Lakeview. And Inspiration Lakeview ultimately was handed over to the purchasers, which is us as Lakeview community partners, when we purchased the property, and we brought forward our own development master plan approved by council in 2019, which really brought forward those kind of initial ideas of active connections, of sustainability, of connecting people with the waterfront, of bringing the waterfront trail back to the waterfront, and really solidified them in a way that we felt was meaningful and very much achievable. And so in 2019, I'd mentioned this plan went forward to council and was unanimously endorsed, and certainly an exciting moment for the project and a way for us to proceed on a plan that's really widely brings excitement to everyone in the city of Mississauga. So just at a high level, I've included a few statistics here. The plan as it's shown on the screen here is 8,050 residential units, and we're working towards each individual block and site plan applications on how we kind of get there. And I'll talk about that later a bit. 1.8 million square feet of employment space is, I think, a really important aspect to talk about. You'll see on the right side a little call out there called Innovation District. As part of the work that was completed through the Inspiration Lakeview Master Plan, it was identified that there needed to be a place here for not just people to live, not just a place for people to shop and whatnot, but there also needed to be a place for people to work, to create this 15-minute city. And so the right side of the site adjacent to the GE Booth wastewater treatment plant was designated as part of the Lakeview Innovation District. And we're looking at up to 1.8 million square feet of employment space there, which is really exciting, up to 9,000 long-term jobs. We have about 2,000 square feet of retail space, most of that located in that Lakeview Square area, shown at the bottom here a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, hopefully you can. The idea with the retail here is too often we see communities built one tower at a time, one building at a time, and the retail's not thought about in a fulsome way. The benefit we had here is that we were able to come forward and create a retail space that was really curated. We were able to look at the whole plan and say, okay, we could put retail in every single building, but what's that really going to get us? And the answer is you'll get a lot of small uses. You'll get some convenience stores. You'll likely get some things such as barber shops or some ancillary uses, but no real cohesion to how that retail all plays together. We see that in a lot of places in the GTA, the US, and certainly around the world. And so what we did is we took this Lakeview Square area, which I'll show some renderings later on, and we're able to really curate that retail space and focus our retail all in one area as to try to have a square and a place for people to congregate. And we have some visioning on what that can look like. And finally, I skipped 20,000 anticipated residents. That's about the amount of population through that 8,050 residential units, and 10 to 12 acres are designated for campus and cultural lands, kind of in the southeast corner of the site. So we're excited to bring those on board and look to be able to bring cultural uses or post-secondary uses to this area. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So at a high level, that's what our development master plan looks like today. I believe my next slides are looking at some of our visioning for our parks, our open spaces, and all those things I just talked about. So I just talked about some of the making this new place by the lake somewhere that people want to spend time, reconnecting the waterfront trail. This is just a little bit of an image of one of the many parks we have at Lakeview Village down by the water. This one specifically is right beside the inlet channel where the old coal-fired power plant used to take the water into the power plant. And so we're repurposing that channel that was previously man-made into this amazing pier, amazing place for people to enjoy the outdoors. And you'll see that we have a substantial amount of park space as part of our plan and a substantial amount of animation that we're working through with the city of Mississauga right now to try to deliver that. Another really important part of the work that we're doing is being able to connect people to Lakeshore Road. So in the site context, you would have seen we're all south of Lakeshore Road, and it's really great for us to have waterfront parks rather. However, it's difficult for us to really connect people with those waterfront parks. There isn't a cohesive way for people to walk down to this parks. So Ogden Park is our large vista, which brings people down from Lakeshore Road, down through the Rangeview lands just north of us, and then finally through the Lakeview site to connect with these waterfront parks. And we're excited about this green connection that was really thought through initially in the inspiration of Lakeview Master Plan and brought forward in this form of Ogden Park. Waterway Commons, another amazing park that we're working on. It's kind of the we'll call it four-season park that we're envisioning here down at Lakeview. The one thing that many of you I'm sure know through spending time on the waterfront, whether it's in Mississauga, Toronto, or other places, is it's absolutely beautiful when it's 32 degrees outside in August. However, it's not exactly the same way if you're in the middle of winter. It's sometimes a little bit cold, a little bit uninviting at that point in time. So this Waterway Common is meant to give people a place to be in those colder months, going east and west, kind of down the center of the site. And then finally, I talked already about Lakeview Square. This is a really exciting part of the project that we want to be able to kind of showcase, kind of highlight. Lakeview Square is really a place for people to gather, the heart of the community. We really wanted it to have that kind of European feel when people are in places in Europe and they go to the piazza, whether it's in Italy or Spain or in France. It's really a place for people to gather and to be outside together. And we wanted to create this place for people to gather. And that's what Lakeview Square is. It's the heart of the project. It's a place for people to come and shop and enjoy a bite to eat, maybe grab a drink on a nice evening as well. And we have a few ideas of how we were able to animate that, whether it's in the day or in the evening, make it a fully animated space, of course, framed with residential mixed-use buildings adjacent to it. And of course, it's all part of park space that's also being conveyed to the city of Mississauga. So what an opportunity for us to be able to have not just an outdoor market at times that it's busy, but also a place for people to play when it's a time on a Tuesday or a Wednesday when it's certainly not as busy. So certainly part of the vision is, what does this look like when we have 100 people down here? What does this look like when we have 10 people down here? It's got to feel like it's the right size, which we feel we've achieved at this point in time. And of course, we want to be able to program it at all times, so it feels like it's an intimate place, inviting for people to come down to, and just another view looking from our pier with our social steps, making people feel like they're coming down to the water as well, and kind of showing how our Lakeview Square outlets into those social steps and down to the water. And that was a really strong move brought forward by our master plan architect from Sasaki, using some inspiration from a project in Mississauga called Riverwalk, or sorry, not Mississauga, Chicago, sorry, called Riverwalk. And finally, we have the crown jewel, we'll call it, of the parkland and the work being completed on the parks here at Lakeview, which is the pier. The pier is a remnant of the coal-fired power plant. The ships would actually come and moor to this pier that you kind of see in the center of the screen. And what would happen is that the coal would be dropped off into these large hoppers that were on top of the pier, and then through a system of conveyor belts that were inside the pier, be brought to the end of the pier, and then it would be deposited on site and stockpiled to burn. And so we have this amazing concrete base, which certainly doesn't look like this right now, but what an opportunity for us to be able to create an amazing space on the shores of Mississauga, about 400 meters into Lake Ontario, to make people feel like they're on a boat, even if they don't have the ability to be on a boat in any way, shape, or form. So we're really excited about this aspect coming forward in the project, and really excited about working through with the city of Mississauga on the design of this pier. We've talked a lot about parks. I think it's really important for us to kind of point out that there is a large amount of land that was conveyed from Lakeview community partners over to the city of Mississauga as part of our purchase of this land. You'll see on the left, there's a bit of a highlight, and I think it's fuchsia or purple there, showing the lands that are being conveyed to the city. And it's not atypical for land to be conveyed to the city, certainly not parkland in a subdivision. And certainly Mississauga doesn't have a whole ton of subdivisions left around. So it's not quite as common as it might have been in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But what is really unique about this is on the western, or on the eastern part of the site rather, it's not only parkland that's being conveyed. You see buildings kind of on the southeast portion, and those lands include campus lands as well as cultural lands, which was something that was envisioned in the Inspiration Lakeview Master Plan, that it's not just about putting parks forward, because we could create parks at the end of the day on the waterfront at any new project, but we wanted to make it a place that was able to be activated. And so we were able to convey, as part of our 67 acres, a vast amount of waterfront, cultural, and innovation corridor lands as well, which I'll talk about in a minute in terms of our vision for some of those in our visioning with the city of Mississauga. This is just an overall view showing a bit of that conveyance, showing that all this waterfront land south of this road will actually be ultimately conveyed to the city of Mississauga. And what an amazing opportunity, not only to connect people back to the lake, but also connect people with brand new conservation areas next door in the Jim Toby Lakeview Conservation Area, and with the park systems already in place at Lakefront Promenade Park just west of this site as well. So I talked about cultural, innovation, and institutional lands being conveyed to the city of Mississauga. And one of the ideas for this cultural hub, which has been thought about for a long time through the Inspiration Lakeview Master Plan and our Master Plan, is the idea of a cultural hub. I get asked a lot, what's a cultural hub? And it's a great question, because it's really a unique opportunity. It can mean a lot of things, but at its inception, a cultural hub is a place for people who are creative to create, whether that's through music, whether that's through painting, whether that's through fabrication. That's what a cultural hub is. It's a place for people with great culture, with great innovative and creative minds to come together and create a place. So what does that mean in terms of having built form? It's one thing to say, okay, we want to be able to have a cultural hub and it's a place for people to think about things and to be creative, but they can do that anywhere. So why is this different? And the reason is we want to create a type of space that's able to bring this creativity to light and to really empower these artists to come down and create down here in Mississauga. So one of the models that we're looking at in this cultural hub is a atelier model, and you'll see we have Artscape there. Artscape's certainly a partnership we've had in the past. We're exploring partnerships with other arts groups as well to determine kind of who the right group is. But what an atelier model is at its inception is it's a place for people to create together. And so to give you an example, what that would look like, if we're in Mississauga and this atelier is placed in Mississauga, and let's say we're in Streetsville and the City of Mississauga Parks Department says, hey, we want a bench in Streetsville, but we want it to look like a piece of art. They could use this atelier, whether it's run by Artscape or someone else, to effectively commission this bench to be created down at Lakeview and then brought up to Streetsville to ensure that this artwork and this creativity is being kept here, being created in Mississauga, and then not being exported to other places, or we're not hiring Toronto artists, for example, to be able to create this artwork in other places. We want to make this art, we want to have this creativity fostered here in Mississauga. And unfortunately, in the past, we've seen lots of these types of models being established in places like Toronto and even Hamilton, but the amazing Mississauga arts and culture community doesn't always get the same opportunity. And we're hoping to change that through this cultural hub and potentially through this atelier model. The innovation district is also a large part of the lands that are being conveyed to the city of Mississauga. And at its inception, the idea for the innovation district is a place for minds to come together, a place for creativity to be fostered, whether it's through business or through post-secondary. So we've certainly had conversations up to this point in time with various post-secondary institutions. Of course, we know groups like Sheridan, groups like U of T Mississauga certainly already have a presence in Mississauga, but we're reaching out to others as well. And that would be an amazing thing for us to be able to see another post-secondary campus down here at Lakeview on the shores of Lake Ontario. That would be amazing. But alternatively, there's also the ability for us to create an innovation district, an innovation corridor. Perhaps it's a large scale business that comes in and wants to be able to foster a new type of workplace. And that's something that we're working together with economic development of the city of Mississauga with right now to determine what is the right use for this. Perhaps it is post-secondary, perhaps it is a large business, perhaps it's something else. And we're working through those details right now with the city to make sure that we bring the right type of use here in the innovation district right on the water in Mississauga and at Lakeview. And finally, the last item I'll talk a little bit about as part of the conveyance lands and part of what we're conveying to the city of Mississauga is our district energy facility. It's a really exciting piece of technology that's part of this project that's really been fostered and worked on a heck of a lot over the last few years. What district energy is, for anyone unaware, at its inception is it's a series of heating and cooling pipes that are housed in the roads as part of this community. And instead of having boilers and chillers on the top of each individual residential building or commercial building, everything's housed in a central plant. And that's what we're looking at right here, is what we're calling the sustainability hub, which will be the future home of district energy. And what will happen ultimately with this district energy system is in the inception, it'll be boilers and chillers in a central location, which is of course already much better than our business as usual. But ultimately, we want to have the ability to use the effluent, which is the product that comes out of the wastewater treatment plant at the end of cleaning all the waste that comes into it, and use it as a heat source and sink at the end of the day to be able to heat and cool this entire community in a carbon neutral way. So really excited about our discussions with the city of Mississauga, with the region of Peel, and with our partner Enwave on advancing this building and this system. And by all accounts, it's a really amazing piece of sustainability and a really huge piece of infrastructure. It looks like it's going to go forward for the first time in Mississauga, and what a unique opportunity and something that we're very excited about. Next, I won't lament on this one too much, but what type of urban community wants a suburban school? And the answer is none. And so through our talk with the Peel District School Board, there was a request from Lakeview Community Partners to provide land for the use of a school. Kindergarten to grade 8 is the requirement for the amount of residents that we're bringing to this community. And so what we did with Peel District School Board was we were able to negotiate with them and put forward a 4-acre urban school model, the first of its kind in Peel region. And that's something we're really excited about, because we felt in an urban community that it would be a real miss for us to have 2 acres of parking lot and a massive 1-story school. So instead we said, hey guys, like, let's work on this. Let's make this so it's similar to the built form around us, and let's make it really a unique school, something that hopefully we can replicate in other parts of Peel region in the future. So that's something we're working right now with Peel District School Board through. And finally, I can't believe I'm at almost the end of my presentation already. I must have spoken really quickly, but I have a bit of a video to show you guys on Lakeview Village, and then I think we'll kind of be at our Q&A probably a bit earlier than we would have liked, but that's all right. So I'll just play this video right now for you guys, kind of outlining Lakeview Village and some of the aspects that I might have missed in my presentation.
It's a new day on the shores of Lake Ontario, and a new beginning for Mississauga, a city on the move. Welcome to Lakeview Village, a 177-acre master-planned mixed-use community at an incredible waterfront location. Imagine 64 acres of coastal wetlands, 4 large park networks, over 45 acres of green space, and 3.5 kilometers of new waterfront trail, bringing the Great Lakes Waterfront Trail back to the water. Lakefront Park will provide recreation for all seasons and ages. Kayaking, paddleboarding, a pebble beach, places to picnic and a boardwalk for your morning run or evening stroll. Ogden Park leads you to the waterfront through a river of green with places to play and views of the lake. The vision for Lakeview Village is a complete community with parks and trails to get outdoors, shops and restaurants at your doorstep, a revitalized pier, a cultural center, a variety of housing, and the Lakeview Innovation District, a 20-acre tech and research center with a unique cluster of businesses, organizations, and a talented workforce driving innovation. Providing over 9,000 jobs, the Innovation District will be an engine to fuel economic growth for the city. Strategically located in close proximity to Pearson International Airport and an advancing transit and mobility network. This district will become one of the largest hubs for innovation in Canada, attracting leading tech and multinational companies.
There we go.
This business ecosystem will jumpstart a technology and sustainability revolution for the city of Mississauga, paving the way for creative problem solving and climate change, energy resilience, the advancement in medical technologies, and the preservation of our Great Lakes. Collaboration is at the core of the Innovation District. Architectural excellence combined with state-of-the-art design will create a place for inventors and imaginators to network, engage, and drive global business innovation. The Sustainability Center will act as a beacon for change, a place for education and knowledge sharing to empower the public and our youth. This is an eco-evolution in action. The hub is where business and social intersect, with meeting rooms, conference facilities, flexible event space, and a cafe where networking, partnerships, and connections are made. The Artscape Atelier will be a makerspace for creative placemaking, public art creation, and artistic visioning. Right next door to the hub is Lakeview Square, a central gathering place with local shops and restaurants, farmers markets, musical events, pop-ups, and festivals. Lakeview Village is a community for your weekend or workday. Walk or bike to work, grab your morning coffee, head to a patio. This is life by the lake. There is a brighter future at Lakeview Village. A connected waterfront, new transit options, housing for first-time homebuyers and seniors, jobs, and new businesses for the city of Mississauga. This will be the most transformative waterfront community in Canada, delivering economic prosperity to the city and beyond. Let's meet at the water. Let's get together at Lakeview Village.
Perfect. So, thought I had one more slide in here actually, just talking about our timeline a little bit, but I can do that to speed by speaking a little bit and kind of mapping out a little bit where we are today and where we are moving forward, which I think is extremely important. So as I had mentioned earlier in our project, we've had the opportunity to have our master plan endorsed by council back in 2019. Unfortunately, that was right before COVID, and things came to a bit of a slow after that, but finally we were able to start working on some of our development applications. The endorsement of that master plan allowed us to start our actual formal planning process, and I won't bore you everyone on the call with it, but effectively we had to do an official plan amendment and submit a draft plan of subdivision and get some rezoning on this site. Which we're now finally just getting through now. We just had all that kind of tied up back in February, which is really exciting. And then in terms of from a physical presence, we have started some of our earthworks on site, which means we're grading all of the site. I'd mentioned all the concrete removal and work that we had completed there. We're now at the point that we're actually moving dirt around the site and hoping to service for next year. And I'd be remiss to mention, and I know a few people on this call already have had an opportunity to stop at our Discovery Center right at the corner of Hydro and Lakeshore. The Discovery Center is the home of the project for years to come, a place for us to greet people, a place for us to be able to really teach people about this community when I don't have opportunities like this to do that. And ultimately also a place for people to come and look at units and purchase units and that type of thing as well over the next 10 to 15 years. So I think with that, it's a pretty good overview of where we are at Lakeview, where we were in the past. And I think the large takeaway is that there's a huge amount of work that's been completed since the demolition of the coal-fired power plant, and even before that, and bringing us to today. And it's been almost 15 years at this point to get us to this point in time. But what an amazing story! What an amazing ride! And what an amazing project that we hope will transform the shores of Mississauga and really be a beacon for waterfront development in Mississauga, the region of Peel, and across Toronto, the GTA, and hopefully Canada and the world as well. So I'll end it there, and I guess it's time for some Q&A.
Well, thank you, Matthew. And what an amazing transformation. I stood there and watched the Four Sisters come down, and to think, these many years later, where we're at now, and this vision, this plan that's in place to see this incredible transformation from heavy industry to, every amenity that we could look for in our landscape, whether, cultural and recreation, but also places to live and work and innovation. It's amazing. What caught my eye particularly, and I know it's a concept drawing, but you're one of the piers showing the tall ship tied to it. I was like, oh, what a wonderful idea that would be. Just a neat way to kind of express and connect to kind of the wider world and showcase what Mississauga has to offer. And this pier is an exciting opportunity, I think. So kudos to the work that's been done, but I know it's, you're still yet at the beginning, right? So you've got years ahead of you in terms of this development. So maybe we can end on this, and it's not a question that's come in, but one that just popped in my brain from what we had talked about at the beginning, before we went live, was the Discovery Center, and that is a little bit of your baby, as you said, it's something you're very proud of. Throw it out there, maybe just as an open invitation for people to come see it. What can they expect at the Discovery Center, and maybe from your end, just to have an open invitation for people to engage with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. So the Discovery Center was really it's an interesting building, because I've worked on a lot of development projects, and often, like, if you build a sales center, you build it for 3 years and it's gone after 3 years, and then you're building your community afterwards, and that's it at the end of the day. It's a very unique building because we wanted it to be a home of the project for the next upcoming 10, 15, hopefully not 20 years, but We'll see how that goes. So call it 10 to 15 years. We'd love it to be the home of the project. It needs to be a place for people to come and to learn about everything that's going on here at Lakeview. And so we completed the building in November of last year. Well, I'll call it completed at November of last year. I had more work to do after that, but not for you guys to worry about. And we formally started inviting people inside the building as of June. Right now, our office hours are fairly limited, only because we're kind of feeling out like when people want to come in and whatnot. We're open Monday to Friday from about 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. For the time being. But we also have one of our builders tried out previewing their units as they're planning to go to sale likely sometime in early October, and they're open Monday to Thursday, close Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday about noon to 6 every day as well. So the building's effectively open 6 days a week for you to come in and learn, but or come in and see everything. But if you'd like to have a little bit of someone walk you through the plan and all that stuff, my colleague Katerina is there Monday to Friday, 11 till 4-ish.
And I was going to say it's already being used by the community as well. I know that you've had some meetings, and from a Heritage Bend, for those in South Mississauga, the Mississauga South Historical Society just had a meeting there, I believe last week or the week before.
I think it was it not? I think it was Monday this week. Was it not? Maybe I'm wrong.
I was off sick and I didn't attend, so I don't remember. But it's open and people are engaging with it, and it's a wonderful space. So yeah.
And maybe I'll add in as well, like further to our invite for people to come down to the Discovery Center. We also, not so much in the fall and the winter because it's fall and winter, but in the summer, we certainly host a various series on site to invite people to reconnect with the community. I'm sure any of you that live in South Mississauga know that we planted sunflowers the last few years to invite people down to take some photos with those sunflowers. Bring your best Instagram game and post a photo if you'd like. We also have a lot of artwork that we've completed over the last few years. Since 2019, we've had a strong partnership with a group called Artscape out of Toronto. And they've hired over the past 3 years, I think it is. They've hired over 25 artists to come down on site and do various murals and digital murals, and those are posted across the site as well as the sculpture. So that's something really fun to come down and see. And then finally, and it just ended a little while ago, and I know a few of the folks here got the chance to go and have a chance to attend our Sunsets and Sounds music series. But every summer we've hosted a Sunsets and Sounds music series, inviting the community to come down and be able to listen to some music on site and be able to maybe have a bite to eat, maybe a drink from a local brewery as well, and really reconnect people with the area. And it's been hugely successful, even though I'm not able to attend most of the time, but I've heard it's been hugely successful, fortunately, and really a great way for us to really be able to reconnect people with this piece of land that's just been sitting for a long time, and before sitting, coal-fired power plant all gated up, right? So we welcome you all down to site. We welcome you to reconnect with this piece of property and with Lakeview Village, and excited to see this plan go forward.
What a great note to end on. So with that, Matthew, thank you so much for sharing the vision, the plan, for sharing your time. And we really look forward to seeing Lakeview Village develop and become an incredible part of the city of Mississauga. So thank you very much and best of luck.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us today for our 2022 Placemaking Webinar Series. We would like to thank Matthew Marsili for joining us today to share this informative presentation on building healthy communities and the future of Lakeview. Heritage Mississauga would also like to thank the Ontario Trillium Foundation's Resilient Communities Fund for their financial support to help us bring a sense of place to a wider audience with this webinar series. Join us next week as we welcome Ben Phillips for his webinar, 2051 Planning for Mississauga's Future, on Wednesday, September 28th at noon. Register at Eventbrite today.